Okay, we're live. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
So basically,
Uh,
we are going live with our second episode with Tarun, who is an amazing photographer. Let him introduce himself.
Introduce
Tarun, go ahead.
myself.
Actually, that was your job.
Okay, fine. Uh, I am. My name is Tarun, and I am in fashion.
I
I am
think
a
the internet has
fashion.
died on us.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. Ashit, can you hear me? I think. Can you hear me, Ashit?
I
Hello.
think I can hear you, Tarun. I can hear you. I
Sorry,
think
guys.
Ashit
One
will
So
second.
join back.
My internet has died on me just in time.
No problem, no problem. We can hear you now.
should I start?
Yes, please. Yes, Tarun.
Okay. So my name is Tarun, and I'm
I think we lost Tarun.
advertising. Lost me. Am I on, guys?
No,
Can you
I can hear you,
respond?
Tarun. You are,
Okay,
you are.
only
Yes,
Ashit is having a problem.
yes, yes. Don't
Ash,
worry. Yeah, go ahead, Tarun.
okay, so I'm an advertising and lifestyle photographer, and I started out as a product photographer. Actually, I started out as a kid when I was 13 years old. I wanted to. I've been from a family of photographers. My great grandfather was a photographer starting 1910 or 1914. He shot the First World War. He learned from the British Army, and
Wow.
then my grandfather, two grandfathers were photographers, one for the Jodhpur royal family and one for the Jaipur royal family. They used to shoot events for them and their personal portraits. My one of my grandfathers, who was he, both of them actually were in Jodhpur, and one of them was picked up by the Jaipur His Highness when he saw him at a wedding and how fast he could shoot,
Wow.
and he took him to Jaipur and made him his personal photographer. So I have inherited that trait. I believe I shoot really, really fast. So then my dad learned from him, and he was also a photographer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He shot industries and events. He shifted to Kota, which was an industrial town, and he was also really, really fast. So I've been shooting since the very, very young age, and I started shooting good-looking people in my class who wanted to be models. So I started out as that. I started out as, I mean, the first camera I had, I picked up and I started shooting my cousins. And then it shifted to my classmates and then my friends. And uh, finally, I wanted to take up photography as a profession. So since I did not have the money that time, only photography institutes, there were no photography institutes in India. So you had to spend a lot of money and go abroad in the late 80s and 90s to study photography. I could not invest that kind of money into my education. So I joined painting in Maharaja Sayajirao, MSU Baroda. I was in the fine arts faculty,
Wow.
and I got carried away with painting for a little while, few years, and then I realized I wanted to be a photographer. So I came back, and since I was not supported by my family in this venture, as for various reasons, I'm not sure, and I had to kind of make it on my own. So the only legacy from my family were two cameras, one FM2 and FE Nikon, both of them, and one more camera which was a Mamiya press. It was a 120 camera. It had limited capabilities of tilt and shift like a Sinar, but not as
Okay.
flexible as a Sinar. It was an old camera. With these three cameras, I started out as a photographer. Uh, so anyway, my very first camera was a 110 film camera. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the 110 format.
Oh,
One
110.
110 format is smaller than 135 mm. So I would like to share the
Oh,
screen.
sure.
Um, let's see.
It's slightly smaller than the 120. That's a normal medium
Yeah.
format.
So can you see? Can you see it?
Not
Can you
yet.
see my screen?
Yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So you can see a
Yes.
135 camera, then a 110 compared to it. The frame, how small that is.
Oh wow.
Can you see?
Correct.
It's really tiny. So it was like introduced for families to take their family pictures, and it was a really tiny format, and the cameras used to look like this. It was like a one shot shoot,
That's
click and shoot.
beautiful. What a beautiful camera. Wow.
Yeah, click and shoot, like point and shoot. Sorry. So the
Yeah.
flash, everything was built in, and the films look like this.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How
Wow.
cool.
So when you're shooting, it used to look like this.
I've seen these
Yes.
before. Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
these.
So my dad had a photography shop, and they were like, I mean, it was full of cameras, and this
I
camera was
think,
lying
yeah,
around.
somebody in the family owned.
Yeah, so he kind of gave me this camera, hoping that I will pick up photography and I can join the business. But I guess I had different plans. So, so I started out with this camera, and then, as I told you, I also when I was at home, they used to have a Canon, but I'm not sure what model was it. It was a film camera, 135 mm. We also had a Pentax K1000. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Pentax K1000.
They used to use the Minolta
Uh,
lenses, right?
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember much of it. It used to look like this.
Ah,
So I
Okay.
dabbled with a lot of cameras. There were like loads of cameras in my shop.
can
So I
imagine.
could pick up any lens, any camera, any combination and go. We had a printer,
Wow.
we had a developing room, we had a dark room, black and white separately, a color dark room separate, slide for TPs, transparencies. It was a different dark room.
Oh
We
wow.
had we had projectors, we had everything, like whatever. I mean, for printing, photo developing to printing to everything. Yeah.
Wow.
So by the
That
time
must have
I
been
came
fun,
to
no?
Yeah, by the time I came to college, I had like pretty much learned everything at the shop. So my two favorites were the Nikon FM2 and the FE. You must guess why these two out of the entire shop were my favorites.
Autofocus.
Uh, no, because these were the only ones with the motor drive. Okay, my dad bought
Ah,
a motor drive for them.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
nice.
wow.
So I wanted to shoot really fast. I mean, I just wanted. I love speed. Yeah, just like my grandfather and just like my father. Like I just wanted to shoot like that. So, so I picked up these two and I took them with me because they had the motor drive, and I had Mets flashes. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't take a picture of them, but later we can show them. So I had Mets
Sure.
flashes with these.
Mets were the ones that were really powerful, right? Right.
Yeah,
All
very powerful
brand
flashes.
flashes.
It had external batteries, and it used to mount on the side of the camera
Side, yeah.
like a
Nice.
old way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
remember a lot of journalists used to use the Met flashes. A lot of paparazzi.
yeah, that time, because they were the most
The
popular at
quickest to
that time.
recycle.
Yeah, and I mean they were the fastest. My dad had love for equipment just like me, so he had the fanciest, the latest flashes, Met flashes, the latest lenses, the latest
Nice.
cameras. Yeah. until the 90s, till he quit photography, he had the latest of everything. Like people, he used to go shoot a wedding, and people, like sometimes he used to shoot industries, like he used to shoot Indira Gandhi's visit to the industry, suppose Delhi
Oh,
Cloth
wow.
Mill or whatever.
Oh, nice.
And
Wow.
there were photographers coming from Delhi and all over the place to shoot Indira Gandhi,
Sure.
and they would look at his equipment and be jealous because he
Yeah.
was just a he was a local town photographer, but his equipment was like much later. I mean, the latest equipment, which even those guys did not own.
Oh,
So
man.
I've also kind of inherited that from my father.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do one session of Tarun's lighting equipment. Some of the stuff he
Yeah,
has is
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think the Profoto store in India has. Like there's some items that I think were only bought on exclusive request from Tarun. Like I
Wow.
don't know if you know what
yeah,
a true strip light is. Like it's basically a
Yeah.
4 foot long tube. The entire flash is a 4 foot long
Yeah, yeah,
tube,
yeah, yeah. Got
and
it.
yeah,
Got it. Got it.
like
I've seen that.
that's the first time I saw it. So I used to use a lot of Helen Chrome before I met Tarun, and
Okay.
I worked under Tarun for about a year and a half,
Okay,
yeah.
back
wow.
in 2010, 2011,
On
and
one
that's when
shoot,
I
I assisted Ashit. Okay, I held his light.
actually he kind of made the shoot a lot better. It looked like shit before that, but yeah. But so Tarun is like is it's mad with equipment. Like I think
Yeah.
he's one of the only people that carries about 400 kgs of equipment, and
Yeah, I used to.
What?
yeah,
What?
and the only one of the only people, and I wasn't the only assistant at that point. We had about Kiran, Subhash, about 4 or 5 of us,
We had
and
10 assistants, Ashit, when you were there.
4 main assistants plus light boys plus like like it was
Oh my
mad. It
God.
No,
was
no, we had 10 assistants.
and
You
then,
are
Wow.
not counting them properly. We had 10 assistants at that time.
it was
So,
mad.
yeah.
And flight tickets were crazy because the extra baggage that we should send with him, like
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
I think the clients used to get scared just seeing Tarun's traveling bill.
So I do guess, I mean, yeah, I had a lot of equipment, but the thing is, I also wanted to be prepared for everything that would come at me. Um, in the sense, when you land on a shoot and suddenly the art director says, yeah, well, but this is not what I wanted, or suddenly in the
Hmm.
evening he wants, yeah, but it's not looking like spring summer and there's no light. So I wanted to be ready with anything. I
True.
wanted to be ready, like I could create afternoon light in the night. So I had
Wow.
like so much
Wow.
equipment, I could do whatever I wanted. And if the art
Wow.
director threw something at me, I was always able to pull it off.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think that's
So
something
a
I
lot of
got from Tarun. Because I mean, we always prepare for like now when I prepare for rain. I prepare for if there is power on location, if there's no power on location, and if basically like we go into sunset. So whenever I order my equipment as well, I prepare for all these situations versus just one situation. And I think a lot of photographers kind of miss that when especially
Hmm.
but commercial photographers I know like Tarun and all these guys we over prepare, and I think when clients see these kind of like rental bills and stuff like that they don't understand it according to
Why?
what we're thinking, but it's just that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
extra 40-50,000 rupees on equipment can save the entire shoot, and I don't
True.
think a lot
Yeah,
of people
because
see that.
a lot of things can come in. I mean, a lot of things can change on location. So you
Yeah,
you never know. You can get late. Things can go wrong. If everything is rolling, it's fine. But
True.
just a glitch in styling or anything can throw the whole schedule off track. So I
Very
wanted
true.
to be prepared completely. Okay, so the journey started with these cameras, which were the three cameras. Then I landed. I shot a little bit of industries in Baroda. I quit college. Then I shot few portfolios, and I realized that, uh, of course, I played safe, and I wanted to be a product photographer. So I came to Bangalore, and I thought I could make it as a product photographer. And I had some picture, I had some portfolio basic work which I shot for my commercial. We had a commercial, the graphic design department, so I used to shoot pictures for them. So I kind of built a portfolio shooting their campaigns. So I
What were you
went
shooting
around
on then?
Nikon and Mamiya Press.
Or the FM2?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I went looking for work with agencies, advertising agents. This is the first time I'm meeting advertising agency. This is the first time I came to a metro like Bangalore, and I I just wanted to show my work around. But there was some I don't know. It was a misconception or whatever you call it. Was a trend. All product photographers work with Sinar, and in the 90s. You must understand that, okay, compared to now, like everything is on hire, right? You can just land up with a phone and you can
True.
rent equipment, cameras, studios, whatever you
Laptops.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
laptop, everything. You don't have to own anything at all.
True.
But in the 90s, if you were a photographer, you had to be rich, first of all. If you didn't have the money, you really couldn't become a photographer because you
Wow.
had to own everything from the studio
Oh
to
yeah.
the
Wow.
light, to the lighting equipment, to whatever, like cameras, everything. You had to own everything. You couldn't ask the photographer, can I borrow this? Or there was no rental houses.
Wow.
So if you didn't have the equipment and it was required for a job, you basically can't do that job.
Wow.
So well, that was bad luck because I didn't have the money because my dad somehow decided not to support me through this. And so I was asked everywhere I went whether I had a Sinar. And well, I didn't have the money to buy Sinar, and I didn't have a Sinar, and I didn't have a studio, or I didn't have the equipment. I had very basic equipment, and I could do magic with that. But advertising requires a lot of different kind of pictures, a lot of different people who ask for different things, and you must be able to deliver everything which they ask for.
True.
So. For a long time, I got stuck in this loop, and I worked as a product photographer. I did small jobs. I did some landscape work. I did a little bit of interiors. I shot products. I shot tabletops, whichever small products like Nandini milk packets for advertisements on buses. I shot. I had some few friends from NID. They used to design some stores. Uh, for like Levi's or Phillips, and they would give me, once they designed the store, they would give me a job to shoot the window displays. So I shot that, and I collected money. It took me like, I think it took me almost 7 8 years of poverty and saving, and I borrowed a little bit of money from my father-in-law. I think I collected some 30,000 rupees with everything, 30 or 40,000 rupees I collected.
Yeah.
And with that, I could afford a Sinar F body only. Sinar is
Yeah.
like a Lego.
Okay.
You can build a Sinar. You don't have to buy the entire Sinar. So you can just buy the body. You can just buy the film back. You can just buy the lens. You can buy whatever you want, and then fit it. You can build the entire thing, a system, over a period of your
Interesting.
lifetime. So I
Is
could
it like
afford
a
only,
camera with the bellows, or is it like?
yeah, it's with
Huh,
the bellows.
huh.
So completely built. I can show you what it looks like.
Yes, I'm pulling it up.
I'll show you.
Sure.
But I think that's also the funny thing that I don't think a lot of the new photographers now understand is, at least to be a commercial photographer, there's lots of years of poverty that we went through to become a commercial photographer. I mean, it was always, we had to always. I think the first 4 years of my life, I didn't make too much money at all, but it was mostly to try and get that.
Okay, can you
Make
see
sure
it?
that yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the F1. This is the field camera, a Sinar field camera. It's very lightweight. It's the lightest of the Sinar cameras, and it is the cheapest. because it's made to work on location quickly, lightweight and stuff. Because the Sinar P, which is the most professional, looks like this and it's really heavy and
Wow.
it's
Wow.
really complex. Yeah. So
That's
this
good
was for
complex.
studio. You couldn't even put it on a normal stand. You had to have those huge tower stands for this.
Wow.
The rollers and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the difference between the Sinar field camera and the Sinar P3 was that when you are are you guys familiar with? Should I explain what a Sinar does?
Yeah,
I think, yeah,
please.
why not? Why not? Yes, please.
Okay, one sec. So basically, Sinar is like it has a. This is the suppose the plane on which your lenses
Film
are, and
plane.
this is the film
Uh,
plane.
uh,
So these two planes are adjustable, movable in any any direction in the three-dimensional space.
Okay.
so it's like
So
a
if
tilt
you
shift inside the camera itself.
yeah, so if you are looking to have a focal plane, normally this is the lens, this is the back, and this is your plane of focus, which is kind of
The object.
uh, parallel. All three are parallel.
Uh, uh,
So beyond this is out of focus. Beyond that is out of focus. The focus is
Understood.
only here. Yeah.
uh,
But if you tilt a little bit like this, yeah,
yeah.
slightly,
Yeah.
then the lines start to meet like this.
Oh,
The third line is also the focal line also comes and meets them. So
at
they
an
become
angle.
Understood.
not parallel anymore. So
Oh, nice.
the focus can go anywhere you want like this.
Wow.
Focus can also go horizontal to the camera almost. So you could have a focus like that. So
Understood.
you could
Nice.
have it here in focus, here in focus, here in focus, here in focus. But above and below out of focus.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your focal plane could look like this. It doesn't. It's not restricted to this straight
Flat. It
parallel.
doesn't have to be
It,
parallel to the film
it
plane,
can look
basically.
like this. But when you increase your aperture to like suppose 11, 16, it starts to open up
Got
and
it.
it can cover everything in focus. Understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I remember we
between
were having a
this,
conversation about a horseman as well. Horseman used to
yeah,
make these
yeah, same
the
thing.
thing. Same thing. Yeah.
Horseman also used to make same cameras but different brand. So a Sinar once you got your focus on an object, the Sinar P3, which is a studio camera, it used to when you drop the lens, it used
Hmm.
to drop from the center of the lens. It used to maintain the center as a pivot.
Oh, nice.
But a Sinar F1 would drop from the bottom.
Oh,
Yeah. So it was lighter. It didn't have those pivot mechanisms and all that. But the Sinar P, when it rotates from the pivots from the center of the lens, it
hmm.
never loses focus of the object which you've already focused because
Oh,
the
okay.
distance
Wow.
remains the same.
So the
But
portable one, you have to keep refocusing with every
yeah,
time
you have
you
to keep
change the.
refocusing. So you drop it, the focus is gone. Drop it, focus, and there was a technique to refocus it.
Wow.
That's
Okay,
fun.
so I got the Sinar F1 body and I broke my Mamiya camera apart. I had three lenses my dad had bought. I broke the front part, the back part. I in Tipsandra in Bangalore, I found a let machine guy. I sat with him and I made an
Wow.
adapter to fit the Mamiya lenses in front and the Mamiya film backs at the back. And yeah, so I basically put my Mamiya onto the Sinar body.
Body. Nice.
Wow.
So nobody knew the difference. They said, "You have a Sinar?" Yeah, I have a Sinar.
But I mean, were there a lot of light leaks when you did this?
Yeah, so there were a lot of light leaks, and I had to do like trial and error. And I used to use this electrical black tape to cover all the light leaks.
Yeah.
So I used to take a Polaroid. If there was a light leak, I'll quickly take a black cloth, look inside the camera, and see where the light leak is, cover it immediately, and start shooting
Wow.
again.
Wow.
So my camera was not perfect because it was made on a lathe machine, and it was here and there, so it was not always straight. and I had to keep on straightening. Only I could work with it because I knew where it is not straight.
Wow, that's
I can
interesting.
imagine. Oh
And
man.
my Mamiya cameras, which was like 30 years old, the lenses were a little fogged. They were old lenses. They were not as crisp as the new lenses. So I basically couldn't shoot on any other film but a Kodak very saturated. It's called Kodak VS, very saturated.
Uh,
So it was like a profile. Suppose now you have Lightroom, you make a profile which is very high contrast and very high saturation. Yeah,
Understood.
so Kodak VS would always use a profile which was high contrast, high saturation. So any
uh,
scene you shoot, it'll be like high contrast, high saturation.
so basically, while
So
shooting it with that specific camera, because there were a lot of, I mean, the lenses weren't that great. It was a little bit more blurred, a
yeah,
little bit more flary. So when you use
yeah,
this, it looked normal.
yeah, it'll look normal.
Hmm.
Nice.
So I shot only with Kodak VS for the next 5 years because I didn't have a
Wow.
choice. And if I use a Fuji Provia, which was a very low contrast film, which was very faithful to everything, it would just look like shit. Yeah, my pictures would look like shit. It would look like foggy picture, no contrast, like some desat. So yeah, so I
How
come
much did these
somehow
cameras cost at that point?
So the Sinat body, I kind of managed to get it for like 35 or 30 something. Yeah,
This is
just
when
the
back
body. I
in.
think 94, 95, 96. I think
Oh wow! And
somewhere
this is
that
just
time.
the body, no lens, nothing.
Nothing, just the
And
body.
was the new body or a used body?
No, it was a new body. So it was
Uh,
the most basic, just the body. I no frills at all. So I kind of had problems, and I balanced it with. I found a way to balance, foggy film. I found a way to get a, Mami out to a Sinar and da 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 da. I just had to make do with whatever I had. So since Ashit was saying, how do you choose cameras? What do you look in for a
yeah,
camera? And I said, I'm going to surprise you. I didn't have the liberty to go and choose a camera.
choose. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm a great advocate of the power of things that come to us.
yeah,
True.
nice.
So what comes to us and how we make use the best use of how it is right for us and how we make the best use of it. So I shot on a Sinar for a long time, and then around 1999 2000. I was struggling, and I was just barely surviving with all this, and because still didn't have a studio, I still didn't have the lights and the equipment. There was a printing press. A guy, he owned a printing press, and back in the day, there were no jobs for photographers. A photographer had to be a freelancer, has his own business, and be rich.
Correct.
Hmm.
So there were no jobs, like you couldn't go to Mintra and take a job. You couldn't go
Yeah,
Got
to
it.
Agio and become a photographer. There were no jobs for us. Like the only job were for press photographers, not for advertising photographers.
journalist.
Yeah.
Understood.
So this guy, he opened a digital press. He bought a digital printing machine called it was called something with X. I forgot the name.
You
A
know,
very
Tarun,
advanced machine. Yeah.
the funny thing is, I think I've heard the story about you from somebody else. Is this guy's wife a designer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Pramod.
think he was Pramod. Is that his name?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I remember him because I think I was shooting something for his wife. She's a
yeah.
designer, so I was shooting something for her. And I remember her.
Michelle Salins.
Correct. And
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
telling me he was at the shoot, and he was telling me about. So I think at that point I wasn't assisting you yet, but I was like, yeah, I know Tarun. I love his work. He's like, yeah, Tarun used to work for me in a
yeah,
little studio back then. Mad man, it's a small world. Huh?
yeah. So since he bought that machine, and he also bought a Cytex scanner and some Cytex printing equipment. Cytex decided to throw in a Cytex had come out with a new digital back, which was a black and white digital back. That time there were only black and white
Cytex.
digital backs. Cytex, Leaf Cytex, yeah.
Leaf Cytex.
It's
Not
called a
a.
Leaf Cytex digital bag.
This is the
So
same leaf
Cytex was
that
the
used to make.
company. The back was called Leaf Volar, and the Cytex was the company which was producing it.
Is this the
Okay.
same leaf that used to make the Aptus and all of that? No.
Yeah.
Same company? Okay.
Yeah. So it was a black and white digital camera, and there were only black and white chips. They used to achieve color pictures by Sinar made a filter for the camera. So the filter, every time you take a picture, the Sinar shutter would go RGB. Take
Oh,
three
wow.
pictures.
The
So it
three
was a
filters.
three-shot camera. It will take three pictures through RGB filters. Three of them will be grabbed and taken to the software. The software will collate them and make you a color picture. So every
Wow.
time you shoot, you click the shutter, it'll go click, click, click. The flashes will fire 3 times, and then you'll
Wow.
see a color picture on the screen.
How long did it take to
Yeah.
process each picture at that point?
It was like the fastest it could go. I think was 6 seconds for 3 shots, 6 or 5 seconds, and the picture. Or we had quite a fast Macintosh at that time. The picture was not too late. I think 5 seconds. So ten
Yeah.
seconds for the entire process. So he was looking for a photographer. So had I was struggling. I was struggling with equipment. I didn't have equipment. I didn't have the studio, and he had the studio. He had the equipment and everything. So I took up a job, and uh, I learned digital photography. I think, the first or the second, maybe the digital photographer in India that time, because these were like, I think I was the first. I'm not sure. So
Wow.
I learned. I had no idea about computers or whatever, so I learned everything from scratch. I had never sat on a computer. I sat down. He just Pramod just gave me one Adobe Photoshop manual. So I sat down and I read the entire manual from beginning to end.
Wow.
And I sat on the Macintosh, started playing. I scanned some pictures of mine and started playing with them, and I learned Photoshop that way. And I started shooting. So we could only shoot products because it was a three-shot camera. If you shoot a person on it, the person is breathing, right?
Yeah.
So you get a little RGB shake.
Oh,
So on the
nice.
edges, you'll see some RGB pixels, red pixels, green pixels here. And
Wow.
so you have to edit all of them, and those won't match properly. So your focus won't be that sharp and all that.
Correct.
But we shot a Levi's campaign on that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we first shot a Levi's campaign, which was a black and white campaign. After shooting a long time on it for products, one of the art directors from McCann, who was very happy with my product work, he worked a lot with me. He decided that I should shoot the Levi's campaign for him. So well, I was like so scared because I thought I could be a fashion photographer. I couldn't shoot people. I was very shy. I couldn't communicate. I didn't know what to tell them, and I was a very introvert kind of a guy. So I refused. But he forcefully said, "If you don't shoot it, no one's going to shoot. Some other art director has to take this." So it was kind of forced onto me. So you know the power of things that come to us.
Yeah.
So I had to agree, and we shot first a black and white campaign because we could do it in one shot. So the leaf back would do black and white shots, one shot, just like a normal camera.
Hmm.
So we could shoot very easily. And then he wanted to shoot a color campaign. So the idea was of these this it was engineered, Levi's engineered jeans. So his idea was about this guy.
Was this like a nude kind of thing with
Yeah, he's wearing this jeans and he's in a position of a baby in a mother's womb, shot from
uh,
top. He's
yeah, I think
floating.
I've seen this campaign, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually created a light box on which I put it on. Put in. It was a light box which was like 10 by 10.
Wow.
Okay, he was backlit. So it was like we created a like a what do you call a jump trampoline, a big
Yeah.
trampoline. We put a translucent cloth on it, and we put all the lights at the bottom, and we backlit him, and we put him on top. The camera was on one of those. We used to have those.
Jibs.
pillar kind of those I forgot the name
Scaffolding.
of no those tripods which were like it was not a
Yeah,
tripod,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
one pillar and it had an arm, so the
Yeah,
camera was
yeah,
on
yeah.
top, yeah, like top, and we shooting down. So we had a yoga guy, and he would hold his breath, and we would go tuck 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 3 shots, and he would move a little bit, like pixel or two. He was really good, and he could really hold his breath for 5 seconds. So there was some little pixels, red and green on either side, which I touched up in Photoshop later. But we got the picture almost like frozen him, frozen like we could freeze him completely.
Nice.
And that campaign became very successful. I think it was the first Levi's campaign shot on a digital camera.
Oh wow.
So, but you must understand that digital cameras that time were very nascent, and I had to join these. I the internet was also very nascent, so I went online, and I was having so much trouble because this color camera, the profiling was there was no color profiling. It was very nascent at that stage. So Cytex came with a color camera, but it didn't have the correct color profile for it. So if I shoot an object with 5 colors in it, all the colors were
Slightly
showing
off.
wrong on my screen. Yeah, a little off. The orange will look a little with a magenta in it.
Oh.
The red would look not so saturated. The blues will look a little greenish
So there was no
because
like white balance at that point. Oh,
it was not the white balance. The color profile in the
hmm.
software was wrong. The
Ah,
color profile the software was using and the color profile of the camera were completely different. So the software was interpreting the colors completely differently. Right now, when you
How
shoot
did
with Canon in Lightroom, it's automatic. It kind of
correct?
knows that you're shooting on Canon 5D.
Correct.
It has the color profile of a 5D. It
Correct.
knows how a 5D looks at a red color or how it looks at a blue color.
Hmm.
So it can reproduce it exactly faithfully. You don't have to do the work. But I
Correct.
was having trouble. I shoot a red object, but it's like coming out magenta. And some objects were like multicolored, so it was very difficult. So I went online, I joined a lot of forums, and I found this guy on an Apple Color Sync forum, and he could profile cameras. And he profiled another Leaf Volar back in US and sent me the profile. And I applied that profile, and then everything became okay.
Wow.
So I had to basically learn color profiling on my own. I had to learn everything like how a digital camera works. Started Photoshop. It was like nobody was there to teach me. So I was on all these online forums every day, like reading like 50 mails, sending mails. In fact, I found one photographer, Rajat Ghosh in US. He was on one of the forums. That's how I became friends with him.
I
And
think
he came and
Luminous
actually
landscapes
met
was
me.
big then, right?
Yeah, he came and met me in India when he came to India, and we became friends online. So I joined all these forums and I learned all this, and I kind of solved my problems one by one. I, I mean, I was just encountering problems after problems and solving one by one. And eventually, by the time I was shooting the Levi's campaign, I was ready with. We had everything in place. We could get the colors right. We could even shoot a person like if he froze properly on that camera.
Hmm.
So that was that camera. And then finally, digital press was dismantled. It was taken over, and then I quit that job. The Levi's campaign got published in archive, and the whole advertising world suddenly saw these Levi's campaigns. And who's this photographer? Who's this photographer? Tarun. And
Nice.
I started getting phone calls, and nobody ever asked me for product work ever again. So I became a fashion photographer.
Wow.
So you see the power of things that come to us. Okay.
Come to us. Yeah.
So the cameras came to me, fashion photography came to me, photography itself came to me from my family, and I just was responding to everything that was coming to me. So I came out, and suddenly I was back with no camera. I didn't have a camera. Now I couldn't use the Sinar because I'm not a product photographer anymore. There was a photographer. He's still there. I'm not sure. His name is Palan Daruwala. He was selling his Hasselblad.
500 cm.
Yeah, so 2000 FCW. It was a Hasselblad. It was a faster Hasselblad, you see. And faster than a normal one. I want something fast,
Was
right?
this the
So
one
he
with
was,
the motor back down
yeah,
below?
yeah. So he was selling
Yeah.
it with a motor drive. So it was
Oh,
even more tempting. Okay.
when was this?
It was in 2001.
Ah,
Yeah. So he sold me Hasselblad FCW. I'll show it to you. Okay. So I'll also show it to you. I'll show you the Leaf camera if possible now.
Wow, that's some inception.
Yeah, this is the Sinar shutter for the Leaf camera. It takes RGB 3 shots through this hole, and it
Sorry,
I think
runs
you
three.
shared another window, Tarun.
yeah, you had to change the share screen. Sorry.
Oops, what?
You shared the StreamYard feed.
I shared the.
StreamYard feed.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not getting this option of. Um, application windows are not coming somehow.
No problem.
Okay, so I'll
so
just
we-
I'll just anyway do a thing that's easier. So can you see the camera
Yes.
now? Okay, this is just the shutter.
Okay.
It's a Sinar shutter. It had 3 filters in it, and it'll run each filter every time. It'll take 3 pictures over a period of 5 seconds.
Wow.
You getting it right? Understood? This
Yeah,
is the
inside that.
place where the shutter will open. Then three filters will run.
This is right
And,
behind the lens, right?
Yeah, right behind the lens.
Wow.
And the leaf back used to. Oh, I don't have a leaf back. Okay, I think. Okay, this is a leaf back. Can you see it, guys?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It used to take 3 pictures. Can you see it here? RGB club and
Fascinating.
yeah, it's called the leaf Volar. By the way, this is the Mamiya press which I broke and put it on my setup. Yeah.
Was this the same lenses as the twin reflex cameras, or different lenses?
No, not the twin. Those are 2 lenses. This is a single lens reflex.
Were
It
the
had a
twins?
film.
Could you take out the lenses in the
Yeah,
twins?
you can take out this lens and put a tele lens. I had 3 lenses.
Okay.
And I had 3 film backs. So the quality of a Mamiya press was that it used to shoot 6:9, like not a 6:6, but a 6:9. It was quite a nice long format.
Nice.
Yeah.
6:9 is 2:3, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2:3.
So that was that. Then Leaf, I showed you the Leaf back. This is the Sinar shutter for it. Yeah. So after that, Palan sold me this Hasselblad FCW with a motor drive. Can you see a motor drive?
Yeah. That used to rotate the motor drive?
I don't remember. I can't remember now. No, it won't. No, it didn't.
I used to have a similar camera, the Hasselblad 500 cm with one lens, the 45 f4. And
yeah, so obviously I didn't have the money, so I could only buy one lens from Palan. So I had a wide angle 50 mm.
Yeah.
So 50 was wide on a Hasselblad.
Correct.
So I could only there was Kiran, he was hiring his 35 mm had a digital back had come, which was a color digital back, one shot color back, and it was a 30. Phase 1 had introduced it by 2002.
Hitchbacks.
Yeah. So it was a 35 mm sensor, really small, and if you put it on a Hasselblad, it would act like a 35 mm camera because the sensor was 35 mm inside. So you could not use the entire frame of a Hasselblad. So a 50 mm on a Hasselblad would act like a normal lens because now it's 50 mm on a 35 mm.
Yeah, so act like an 80 mm on a medium format.
Yeah. So for a few
you
years,
put
I shot
masks in, right, as well. In the viewfinder, you had to put a mask in to make sure you could see exactly what it was. Oh God,
so for a little while, I shot on Hasselblad just one lens, 35 mm, 50 mm, which used to act like 30 mm on a
Equivalent to a 35 mm.
yeah, equivalent to a 30 mm on a 35 mm. So I shot all the campaigns for 2 or 3 years on a wide angle lens, just one lens. Yeah, and so I became a wide angle photographer. I was called this guy with a wide angle lens because I used to shoot everything with a wide angle.
Wide and low.
Yeah, so people used to come to me just because I was the only one who could do these wide angle pictures, to make them look nice. Wow. So the power of things that come to us. I was a wide angle photographer because I had only one lens. So eventually, then Canon released a 1DS, Canon 1DS.
Yeah.
It was an 11 megapixel Canon camera, which was the first digital camera on a 35, which was decent quality and super fast. So I bought a Canon 1DS with the money I made, and I had only money for one lens, so I bought a 1635 f2.8.
F2.8. His favorite
So
lens.
for the next few years, till I think 2007 or 8 or 9, I shot everything on a 1635. So
Wow.
all my earlier campaigns are all wide angle. There was everything was wide angle. Whatever you throw at me, wide angle.
So I remember like a lot of at that point he used to only around when I met him he used to only use the 35 mm. I mean the 1635, the 2.8, and because he wanted to keep things a little bit more fluid, he used to use speed lights with so basically like your Canon speed lights, but with the external battery pack,
Yeah,
so
this
that
is the
it would
camera.
recycle faster.
Can
Yeah,
you see
Got
it?
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I've used
here's
this camera as
one.
well.
Then here's 1DS Mark II and then Mark III.
Three, yeah.
I've used
Yeah,
them as well.
1DS, 1DS
Uh,
Mark II. I think then it was 16 megapixel and Mark III was 21 megapixel.
Correct.
Yeah, so I owned one after another, all three.
But also, just another point, like the
Yeah.
1635 lens is not a very easy lens to work with for all your shoots. Like it's a very niche lens, that having that wide angle, because
Yeah.
you're seeing so much of the scene, so you're automatically having to also art direct so much. You're having to show so much because, I mean, nowadays, like most people just put on a nice like a 85 or a 7200, blur out the background, and most of your you don't worry that much about the background. But now, I mean,
Yeah.
going
So
back
I
to
was the only
Lights a
one who
lot
could
more.
do that. I used to. So I got used to. I used to whenever I took a campaign, I would. I was a nightmare for the production people, and I was a nightmare for the set designer because I wanted the location to be like
yeah,
almost 360 degrees.
wow,
Uh,
wow,
so I also used to tell stories. So I would take grabs from a movie about a character, how his house looked like, and I would give it to the production people and I would give it to the art directors, and
wow,
they would make it like lived in, and the whole set, the whole room, the whole house had to be done according to what I wanted of this
wow.
character. And then I would enter and I would shoot moving. I would never put my
I'm moving
camera on
around.
tripod.
Yeah.
I used to hate a tripod, so I've never used a tripod almost in my life, unless an art director would specify, please put your camera on a tripod. Tarun, please, this time we
I
have
need
to
to
like
composite something.
superimpose, okay, fine. But I never used to put my camera on tripod, and I wanted like almost 180 degree clear view of no tripods, no light stands, nothing. So I used to shoot with one flash, two flashes, one on the camera, which was an on camera. So I used to shoot only with TTL flashes, ETTL flashes. So one ETTL Canon speedlight was on the camera, and one ETTL was taped to a beauty dish, which Kiran used to hold. My assistant, he was used to assist me that time, Kiran Nana. So I'm just shooting, and this one, which is before this, I used to use before the Canon gave us the ability to use two flashes at the same time, ETTL.
Mm-hmm.
They used to allow only one, so you could either have one flash on, or you could have a tethered wire, so the flash could be off camera.
Correct.
So I used to use a Mets as a side and used to plug it into the hot shoe. So Mets will be on my camera with next to the lens. So it's like a
Hmm.
fill flash. Yeah,
Yeah.
a Mets flash. It's a manual flash. So I would put it at low setting, just like a fill light, and I would take a tethered wire, and Kiran would hold the second flash as a main light.
Is this
So
one
if
of those
I'm
long
yeah, just
cables that were?
like a telephone wire. So if I'm
Uh,
shooting, I would just shoot without a tripod, and I used to set up a scene. So there is like a gambling scene going on. So there are these 10 models, and they are gambling on a table, and there are some models dancing at the back. So I would run to the models who are dancing. Then I would come to the table and shoot who are people who are gambling. And then I would, as the activities are happening, I would move. And Kiran used to move with me. He used to
man.
almost anticipate where I'm going to turn my camera. So the model I turn my camera on, he would put his flash immediately because I was so fast. I didn't wait for him. And there was this guy behind me holding a laptop. His name is Mohan. He used to be. My camera was always tethered, and the art director running on the laptop looking at the pictures. So it was quite like 4 people running and shooting, and the whole room is decorated. So that's how I used to shoot. I used to love like running around there, shooting. And Kiran used to be really fast. I turned my camera and Kiran was always there. The flash was always hanging on, like on
Right.
that model. So that was
Nice.
awesome. So
Nice.
I could show you a series. I'll just check if I can find it.
Yeah, so some of the questions that I wanted to talk about in terms of what I received on Instagram was most people were really fascinated about your lighting, and they wanted to know if you could like break down a couple of your pictures or your favorite
Yeah,
campaigns and just talk about lighting maybe or some challenges you faced during that shoot or
yeah. So I'll just show you this, which I described the lighting setup to you right now.
sure.
Uh, so I set up this scene with Juno Simon. He used to love my work. So all my extremities he would suffer, and whatever I asked for, he would make it available to me. He would just tell the marketing servicing guys to just take the client away and give him a drink and never bring him to the set, and I could do whatever I wanted. Yeah. So I'll share the screen. I'll show you these pictures which we shot with a Mets and a Kiran holding light.
Yes, please.
So just two lights, which are like ETTL flashes, not even Profoto, Elimchrome, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, uh, mistake, right?
I think at this point as well, a lot of like Profoto and all that, you should look down upon ETTL and all that. They're like, oh, it's only for the speed
Okay,
lights.
can you see?
Yes.
So one fill light and Kiran holding the other light.
Nice.
Wow.
This is a lifestyle campaign, right?
Yeah. As things would happen, I would run. So I'm shooting the table now. I'm turning around wherever I see the activity happening. I turn, I zoom in, I zoom out. Only wide angle, 1635. And then there are people talking at the back. I run to them. Then there are dancers at the back. Or this would happen. I run there. So I would just run here and there. Kiran would follow me. So activity happening like this. Yeah, people going onto the piano, and the whole day we just ran behind these models. And Juno would go and set an activity. See this suddenly dance starts happening, and we follow the dancers.
Wow.
Then people start talking. We follow the people, and the flash you see that flash the other person is holding. Kiran is holding that flash, and you would just go and point it at the model, which I'm focusing on.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this
So
was
one
obviously
film.
this was a set that you all built.
Yeah, so this was in Goa. This was an old house, and then we set all the accessories so which suit us. So this is
Wow.
how we would do an entire set.
Beautiful. I would love to see a few more like that if you could, I mean, any images that or any campaigns that are memorable to you and you have some like fun stories.
So more
Fun.
pictures. Yeah, I can. We can go on this one. But anyway, you saw this setup. So I can show you a different. So on the same light setup, I would go outside and I would change my ambient light, how much I'm grabbing ambient. I would increase the ambient light. I would use both the flashes as a fill light, and then I would do a different look. Okay.
Okay.
So same setup, same Canon METs and a ETTL Canon flash with a beauty dish. So I would take the beauty dish and soften it now. So I would
Okay.
put I had a kind of a cell. I went to Commercial Street and bought these lamps, and I would cut them and put them in front of a beauty dish, and I would make beauty dishes which were particular to the lighting setup I wanted.
Nice.
So now this beauty dish has a kind of a. This is the beauty dish, right?
Correct.
It has a translucent dome in front of it like this, which is
Right.
smaller than the beauty dish. Understood?
Yes.
And it has a hole over here. So from the hole, the hard light is coming out, and from the diffuse part, the soft light is bouncing and coming. So
Okay.
it's a mix of a hard and a soft light in the same light.
Interesting.
Understood? Yeah. So I would design all these things. So I designed this beauty dish from all these lamps which I cut. So now for the last shot, I was using hard and soft light. Now I cover that hole with a translucent sheet of paper, so the entire beauty dish is soft. Yeah. So now I'll show you the difference in the light.
Sure.
Same setup, more ambient and beauty dish as a fill. Yeah. This is the light.
Oh, wow. No.
Got it?
I can see it in the catch light. Yeah.
Can you see
catch light is-
yeah, that's the beauty dish.
Wow.
So I can do a different light setup, completely different, look. So
Nice.
people are cooking, I'm running behind them, I'm putting the camera on top, I'm taking low angle, top angle, I'm doing all kinds of things like wide angle, look at their arms stretching 1635. Yeah, and everything in focus because 1635 would get everything in focus at 11 aperture.
Correct. Fascinating.
Got it? So people playing guitar, talking to each other, greeting each other. So we would set it like a movie, and people would walk in and act like they were actresses, and there was a thing happening there.
Nice.
And there was a barbecue happening. People would smash the barbecue. They would do whatever, and we would just shoot. So
Interesting.
so that's one. So for a long time, I shot everything on Canon and Canon flashes and
And now
flashes.
currently, what is your setup like? What in terms of
So
your camera?
So there came a time. So this is what I call passion to profession. So when you're passionate, you're very excited about everything, and you move by emotions, and you think the client is stupid. He doesn't know anything. I want to give him something. I want to do a picture he's never done before, and I shoot his machine take his machine, put colored lights on it, and shoot. And the client is like, I don't want colored lights. I want my machine to show in normal light. And like, I don't understand it. Like, emotional and passionate about whatever. Yeah, but I had come to a point that I had run passion for like 20 years, and I did whatever I wanted, and I cursed everyone around me. But there came a point where the campaigns were getting bigger, the budgets were getting bigger, and there was like kind of responsibility. And well, now it was time to be a professional. So, professional is not somebody who's too moved by emotions. And the difference between a professional and a passionate person, which is passion to profession, is that as a professional, you almost like you do a duty. Yeah. So you are delivering what is required, and you are kind of removing yourself from the picture. There's no you. It's not like I want to do this. No. Yeah, people are demanding things out of you, and you must deliver. So, and you can't be emotional at all. So, it's like if you get emotional, you really can't be a professional. Yeah. So it's a more calm approach to things, listening to everyone, getting everyone involved, and it kind of widens. I also understood that for the longest time I was just doing what I wanted. Like I wanted to shoot. I was just, I could only have a 1635. Okay, I'll shoot 1635. Client is saying, "Is this my model's arm is stretching so long? Why is it looking so distorted?" I don't give a shit. Yeah, I'm just boss. I want to shoot. If this is what you want, come to me. You don't want to get lost. Yeah. So, but at a point, I realized that it had kind of restricted me into this space. It was just like I could just do this. And if you told me to do this, then it was out of my
Range.
box. Yeah, and I didn't know how to achieve that because my equipment, my mindset, everything was just this is what I know, this is what I do. If you want it, take it, otherwise leave it. But the professional is not like that. Professional is somebody who can deliver anything you require out of it and with calmness. So at a point, because I was also getting known and a lot of people started coming to me. So till now, I could only work with few people, art directors who loved my work, and they stood between me and the client, and they blocked the client completely. Right? They would protect me no matter what. But now there were people who were coming to me who didn't know me. They were like the stage was getting bigger, and all kinds of people were approaching me to take pictures, and they wanted certain things which I could not deliver. So I started struggling a lot. I think from 2006, 7, 8, 9, some 10, 4, 5 years, I struggled a lot because I tried to light up a white background picture. And I realized I didn't know how to light up a white background cutout shot because all I knew was Canon Flash. Yeah, and I was failing miserably. I failed at so many jobs because I just didn't know how to light them up. I just didn't know how to give people what they wanted. But I knew that the power of things that come to us. So people who were coming to me and demanding all this out of me, they were like, they could make me grow. They could pull me out of my comfort zone and make me do things which were like out of my comfort zone. And then I could handle anything, right?
Hmm.
So I have tried and tried and tried and I learned and I experimented a lot I had a good brain. Like I was good at lighting, but I was stuck up. I just wanted to do this and nothing else. So I had to really sit down and apply my brain again. And then I was very good at observing light and replicating light. So I started experimenting again for 4 5 years. I failed miserably, but I experimented. And by 2009-10, I was back again. Now I could light up. You wanted spring, summer, and autumn, winter? I can do that. You want autumn, winter, and spring, summer? I can do that. You want day and night? I can do that. You want day in the studio? I can do that. You want night in the studio? I can do that. I can do whatever you want. And I broke that attachment with me. I just didn't do any wide angle, nothing. Whatever the person asked. Put the camera on tripod, okay, put it on tripod. Use a tele lens, okay, use a tele lens. I want it like this, okay, give it like that. And that made me grow. Now I can do whatever you throw at me, I will give it to you. Because I'm also not emotionally attached to I want only this.
So
Right?
sorry, Tarun, I had a question. So personally,
Yeah.
I've always been like that. I've always been very accommodating
Yeah.
and stuff with the. I mean, I would not put my foot down too much. I've never put my foot down with the client.
Yeah.
What do you think? Which was better for you? Was it like being a photographer that had a particular style and would only stick to that? What do you think that made you more successful, or the latter half of your career?
See,
What
the
do you
things
think?
have to get out of your system. Yeah.
Correct.
So I cannot tell you this is better or that is better.
True.
But how? I mean, whatever you're doing, do it to the hilt. So what my point is again, and look for things that are coming to you. What are people asking of you? Pay close attention to that. So it don't fret too much about it because when you do it to the hilt, see when the sun reaches its peak, it's time for night.
True.
Yeah. So when the things have to turn, the night will approach you, right? So I did it to the peak. I just wanted whatever, and I did it the way I wanted it, and then it was time to end, right? So automatically, different kind of people started coming to me. They started asking me for different things, and I had to change. It was time for change. So day was over, it was time for night. Or when the night is over, it's time for day. I'm not
Right.
forcing anything. Just look for what is coming. Yeah. So when things reach their maximum point, they turn.
True. Very
So
true.
it's automatic. You don't really have to worry about it. So do whatever you're doing. So if you're good at this, you're good at giving people what they want, then do that. And at some point, there will be some people who will come and ask you, "Hey, Saurabh, now I want you to give Gaurav, I want you to give me something which you want."
True.
And then you'll be like, "Shit, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that." And you will struggle, but you will find a way. So
Very
the
true.
power of things that come to us. So just be careful, listen to what is coming to you, and
Yeah,
respond.
it's funny that you actually say that because I think for most of my career, I just did mostly advertising work for somebody else's layouts and somebody else's things. And when I
Correct.
first came out to Bombay, the whole while shooting editorials, right? Editorials, they have no layouts. They can't say go shoot whatever. I struggled a little bit with that aspect, and I was like, I found it a little bit more difficult for me to. 'Cause I knew if you give me a frame, you say this is what I want, I can frame that, light it, however. But when you say
Hmm.
just go do what you want, I was just like, shit, what do I do now? But it took
Yeah,
a few years. It took a few years for me to break over that as well. But I think it's once you find the balance in both places is when you truly come to your essential peak of your what you can do as a
yeah,
photographer. So I mean, it's a difficult process, and this is again something I don't think people take seriously enough because
yeah,
it's like every single part of it is so difficult. Like when somebody says editorial photography is easy, it's not. There's aspects of it that's hard. There's when you say advertising is easy, it's not. Like you can probably get the emotion right, but setting up the lights are a difficult aspect.
yeah.
And like
It's
we were discussing
different.
the other day,
It depends on the person. At what point? At some point, that was easy for me. At this point, this is easy for me. So it really matters at for what point that person is. So the thing is, I would tell you, like I was one light photographer and I was terrible at lighting. But now, I mean, I struggled and I failed and I failed and I tried and now, I mean, you guys are asking me, tell us how do you light, man? Tell us how do you light. So you see, I mean, I was 10 years back a terrible light man.
True.
So I experimented and I somehow figured this out. So yeah, so now you want to see what I do now, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so some mosquitoes coming in. I'll close the windows.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, but this was fascinating. I didn't know you worked with Tarun. So
yeah, no. So I mean, there are lots of people in my career that I really wanted to make it, and
Okay,
um,
so
so
okay, get back to this.
yeah. So when I actually met Tarun,
Yeah.
I met him I think first at RK Photo Guide, Naresh's place, and he was I still remember him sitting there. I think he had I liked his shoes. He was wearing a pair of Pumas then.
Okay.
And I saw his shoes. I was like, okay, this is a cool guy. He was sitting over there in the shop waiting for his some gear to come, and that's when I met him. Then we used to meet at Koshi's, and then I asked him like, "Can I assist you?" So he like, "If you assist me, we may not be able to be friends after that." So I was like, "That's okay."
did I
So
say
I was
that?
like,
Okay, fine.
yeah, at Koshi, and I was like, yeah, dude, I want to, I want to learn. And the thing is, at that point, there was
Okay,
Tarun had just shot Jockey, and if, for me, it was something that was very definitive. It wasn't like what everybody else was doing. There was a sense of fluidity to it, and that's something I kind of still try and push in my work. But I try not to keep anything structured. So I want to keep it moving. I want to keep the, I mean,
see
everything to an extent that's
that's
fluid.
another thing. I was just very bad at telling people how to pose. Okay, so I just made them run around and shout.
Sorry, if no one knows what we're talking about, let
Yeah,
me just show you all the image that he's talking about. Is this the
yes,
image?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
I was very comfortable with people then because I didn't know how to tell them to pose. So I would describe a situation to the model, and then they would just do whatever they wanted, have fun, and I would shoot them. That's
crazy.
because I was just terrible at making people pose. I just didn't. I
No,
hate those people posing like this and all. It's
but
just
you have to be on set with Tarun. Huh? He's like full on entertaining. Like when he's in the zone, he's in the zone. Like he's the things that he says to the models. If you are not part of the shoot and the first time you've ever come to a photo shoot, you'll be like, "What the fuck is happening?" Like the way he
yeah,
talks, like if you record his voice, it's so entertaining. Like the first time
Yeah.
I went, I was like, "Oh my
yeah,
god!" But then I found like all of that conversation, you're just putting things out there. The model was like, the model didn't have time to get into her own mind and think. So she was
I'm
just like,
just
"Yeah, let's
I'm
go."
just glad
That's
that
why
the models didn't sue me.
I'm surprised as well.
So
He's
I
like,
would
"Jump up,
I
go
would
down, do this, do that," and they're all like moving at the same time. And I mean, that's
yeah,
I think also I've kind of incorporated a few of these things while learning from him as well. But it's like you'll be surprised of how active he is on shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
like there were times when we were shooting on a yacht in Goa, and we are on the side, and he leans over into the water,
What?
and yeah, so there's Kiran who's holding one light, I'm holding one beauty dish, and he just leans over, and it's our job to catch him. So before he goes off, both of us go and leap and hold his belt, and he's
No
leaning
way.
off. Yeah, he's leaning off the boat. He's taking pictures, and he's like nothing happened. And both of us are like, "Oh my god, come back here!"
That's hilarious. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was
anything for a picture.
yeah, and it was crazy. Like I think on his shoots, there were shoots that went on 24 hours sometimes, 28 hours
Yeah,
straight, no
yeah,
sleep, nothing, and
Oh
like
my.
no eating also. Forget it. So if Tarun doesn't want to eat, none of his assistants also have time to eat because he's working. In his
Wow.
mind, he doesn't know what's happening. He's just like in the moment, right? And
True.
we all like starving over there. We're trying to send two people to get something to eat and come back. It was it was hectic, but also I think those times we had better budgets than we have now. Like now
Yeah.
it's just everything is they're so chindi. We've gotten used to paying less, but we should do
yeah,
what we should do like a pre lighting day. So in a studio, if you had like a big
Correct.
campaign, we used to go to the
Wow.
studio one day before and spend their entire day lighting.
yeah,
So
That's
like
unheard of.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, because it was a big campaign at that point, right? So we sit down, I don't like we sit down, didn't like it, okay, bring everything down, let's start again. And
yeah.
Right.
that's
That's how
how
I learned lighting.
yeah.
I
So
tried
everybody
everything,
but yeah,
everything that went in my head. Just try it out.
like yeah, just put it there. The thing is, like, again, when you see like a lot of present photographers, they all have a style. Like most
Mhm.
people that have a style, they put a beauty dish or they'll put this and they'll put that, and that's their style. So most of their portfolio is that. I feel like he's one of the other people that has no string holding him from the first shoot to the next shoot. So it's
Got
like
it.
if I want to put a light, I'll put a light here. I have nothing to lose. Like, does it help
Yeah,
the picture? Let's do that. If it doesn't help the picture, I
yeah,
don't care. So
yeah.
I don't think there's ever a point where it was. I don't know if you've repeated the same lighting on different shoots. I
No,
don't think it's happened for like
no.
yeah,
The basic ideas are the same, but every time it's just different a little bit,
yeah, and that's
and we
something that's
can't remember.
no, but that's something similar that I do as well. So I don't know. I don't have a fixed structure that this and this will work for me. And
Yeah,
this worked against me because when I went to South Africa and I went to Dubai to meet agents, they're looking at my work and saying, "But there is no style."
yeah,
I was like, "But, but." And my thing I was telling them, "But," I was like, "I can imitate any style. Like that's what a
Mhm.
commercial photographer does. Like if you tell
Mhm.
me that, hey, I want this lit, I have to get it
Mhm.
lit for you. I can't say this is my style and I need to stay within this. We need to create
yeah,
whatever needs to be created, and that's something that as a commercial photographer it's a little bit easier to understand that because at the end of the day they're paying for you to create something for them, not
True.
only to create your own mind.
yeah,
So it's difficult, but I mean that's what I think. It takes a lot of time as well to kind of spend that time to kind of learn. And I think
yeah.
advertising sometimes can be the most brutal. Like if they don't like your work, they'll just tell you that, you know what, you suck, man. Like by the client. Like I've gotten it from an art director who said that it's shit,
Yeah.
and I've never worked with that person again. But
Wow.
yeah, having one campaign bomb in your life that'll fix everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
even I've quite a
Yeah,
few.
yeah. Like one,
So, but
for me,
that's a topic for another topic. The failures and all that we can talk about that.
yeah, I think we should spend more time talking about the failures and the successes to make people understand how much
That's
we've had our asses kicked. Like we've never, like,
You can plan another one more talk, which is
I think one more day. Forget
yeah,
one more talk.
maybe that will be like a 24-hour talk, one of
yeah.
24-hour shoots.
I think we should get a lot of people who had their asses kicked, like together. Everybody together should talk about, and that's a common thing between everybody, man. Everybody, at least who's successful right now, has faced an enormous amount of failure. There
For
nobody's
sure.
ever gotten to success without failure,
For sure.
and that's something that's
Yeah.
completely missing nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting back to cameras.
Wait,
Cameras.
so sorry.
Cameras.
Let's,
Oh,
um, we are about 1 hour 15 minutes. Let's close in with what Tarun is using currently and what he's chosen to use currently, and uh, for currently for 2020 or for 2019. Since 2020 has been quite a slow year.
Let's just delete the year.
okay. So I'll show you pictures from this campaign. Eh, So this is kind of current, which I could not do in my earlier avatar. What is this
Okay.
happening here? Can you see it? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, I can see your website.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So we shot this campaign. We had three characters set out for us. Um a guy who's born in wealth. His dad owns an industry, so he just overtakes the business. Then a guy who's like flirtatious, playboy kind of a guy, like more like what do I say? I forget the name of the actor. I forgot. But someone who just is very playboyish, is born in wealth, but uses his charm to get his way around. And then we had the third character. He's a guy who's self-made and come up on his own terms, and you know, kind of makes it on his own. So he's quite like competitive and aggressive kind of a guy. Yeah. So we did some pictures, and I basically want to show you the lighting for three different scenarios. So this is one scenario. Then the next scenario, because he's more of an open, happy-go-lucky, that kind of a guy. So more of a very outdoorsy, not very hard light, very soft, always smiling, that kind of a light. And this is very traditional, classic light. The clothes are classic, and he's born in wealth and studied in Oxford, that kind of a guy. So the light also follows him, right? And this is the light. He's always playing golf, just getting his way around by smile. So the light follows him. Now the very aggressive guy, very competitive. So the light is also like kind of hard and follows him in that way. He kind of makes his own way and wants to prove himself. So everything around him is to prove himself. Yeah. So these are the setups we did, and I'll just check if I have another from the same series. So we wanted to talk about one of the pictures which I selected and sent to you, Ashit, right? Out
Yeah,
of the
let's
same series.
probably break that down, become easier.
Oh, I don't know where that is. One second.
What gear are you using now, Tarun?
So I rent different cameras depending on what is the requirement. Sometimes a Canon 5DS, and at times. So this is the picture, yeah, of that Playboy now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one sec. So I'm gonna quit sharing the screen.
Sure.
So I rent cameras depending on the job. So sometimes I rent a Phase 1 bag, sometimes with Hasselblad, sometimes with a Phase 1 Mamiya camera.
So
Sometimes
what
a Canon
are your
5DS.
criteria when you're looking at picking a camera? Is it the movement or is it the megapixel or
Yeah, so depends. Some depends. If I mostly on a shoot, I have the Canon 5DS and either two Canon 5DS if I'm just gonna shoot with speed and movement, or I have a Canon 5DS and a Hasselblad if the time and everything permits and I can shoot on a Hasselblad or a phase one 100 megapixel. I can pull back so the art director can crop it vertical, horizontal, everything. So very pulled back shot, showing the entire scene and the according to the requirement, they can crop it later. But and if that is not happening on the shoot, I quickly switch to a Canon and I start shooting. And I mostly work with pro photos, and I carry my strip light everywhere because I love the strip light. I can't work without it.
you should really
Uh,
show a picture of your strip light. It's a really interesting modifier.
you'll have to get it. I didn't get it,
Have
but
you ever
somebody
blown
got
a
it.
tube for that?
Not till now, no, not till
Touch
now.
wood, touch wood.
I have two strip lights now, two
Oh,
sizes. Yeah.
but do they work with
So
the Pro 10s as well, or is it just like, or you have
yeah,
to get
so
it?
I work with Pro10. I mix them. I work with Pro10. If I have a generator, if I have no access to generator, I work with B1's Pro Pro10. B1, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
So now for this setup, I would like to tell you that it's a very simple setup. Basically, a lot of times art directors, a lot of time people come to me and they say, because I've done a successful campaign, and they just come to me and they say, we hired Tarunn, so we will come up with a different, another great campaign. But and also some last of the webinar, somebody asked me, one photographer, if references, showing references is allowed, good thing or a bad thing. So there is no good thing or a bad thing, but how you use whatever, even showing references, how do you use it? So you must understand that if you're an advertising photographer and you're on location and you have like 8 hours or 10 hours of work to do, you've been hired, the entire crew has been hired for 8 or 10 hours. The amount of money which is the client is spending on those 8 or 10 hours could be like 20 lakh rupees. Yeah. And that's a lot of money. So you can't go to a location. I mean, if we could, when we were young, the budgets were huge. We used to shoot 2 pictures a day. So I could go land up and start talking to a model, and I start shooting pictures, and the art director is looking at the picture. No, man, not this mood. And I change my talk and I push her to do something else or him. And I keep on working until we get a picture. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it takes half a day. And sometimes you don't get a picture in half a day. So we are trying to invent something completely from scratch, right? And we are working with the art director. The art director is completely all the time talking to me, and I'm talking to the model, and he keeps on telling, "No, man, not this, not this mood. No, this is not my campaign. This is not my campaign." So it's a long process, and you can't. So now when I go on a set, I have 8 pictures to do in a day. I have 8 hours or 10 hours. I can't sit over there and talk to 4 models. I work with a group of people and now try to get a picture and the art director telling me this mode, that mode is not going to work. So references are very, very good for that. First of all, sometimes the art director comes and tells me, I'm looking at something active. But what he means by active and what I mean by active could be two different things, right?
Right.
So when he shows me a picture, see, this is what I mean by active. What do you mean by active? So there is a reference, a clear reference. Okay, this is what you mean by active. A person who's not completely losing it, he's still posing, not completely throwing his body in uncontrolled way, but with a smile or very active face. But active for some other art director could be completely something different, right?
Yeah.
So references are very good to as uh, to make things clear, communication between art director and the photographer and the model. So it's good to have a lot of references and what portray your brand, what you gonna what you are looking for in those pictures. And then when we land on the shoot, we start with the reference. Now, whatever the references are, we try to show it to the models. And now, what happens is you can tell Sachin Tendulkar to do a cut shot, right? And you can tell Mohammad Azharuddin to do the same cut shot. But Azharuddin is going to do it a risky way, and Tendulkar is going to do it in a more power way with a heavy back, right? But they want to do the same shot. So now the models are going to take that, soak that in, and give you that mood and give you what you're telling them. You show them 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 pictures, and then they soak that entire thing in and then they perform it for you.
Correct.
But they're going to do it in their own way. You can't push it. You can't tell them this is what I want all the time. So you tell them and then you let them go. So you need to do your preparation nowadays very well because the number of pictures to be done are very like 8, 10, 17 sometimes. You don't have the time. You can't sit there and experiment and try to, take one model in the middle of Paris and, try to get one mood and keep on talking to her. It's not going to work. So that's a very important preparation. And then once everything is there, then you must also get from the art director what kind of a light feel is looking at. That also you should show your references because talking is just like talking is good, but then talking means if you're just talking, I take a picture, do a light setup. Nah, man, little more contrast, change it. Nah, man, maybe it's too much. Change it. You don't have time for that nowadays.
True.
So show me a reference. Okay, fine. Okay, this kind of picture. So I get prepared, and then I do a recce. So location recce I do, and then according to the mood and according to the pictures he's looking at, then I try to sometimes change it also in the sense like there was a location we went to and the location didn't have anything to offer, but nowadays the locations are decided before the photographer sometimes. Now you have to perform on that location.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I spoke to the art director. I kind of switched from a 70 which 2470 which I use all the time. I went to a 7200 almost lens and I shot everything at 200 mm, and I used the location from a height because the location was we wanted autumn winter and location was mostly cobblestones and dark stones and all that. So if we from top looked at the location, we would only get dark cobblestones and these stony walls and all that. So we could do a very dark, cold autumn winter look. And with the tele lens, we could zoom and cut all the greens out. So you see models against only the stones and cobblestones. Sometimes you're seeing only the floor, like an
Right.
entire cobblestone street, and you're shooting from top, and the models are against. So very tele kind of lens. And so I showed it to our art director. I said, "This is the best. If you want autumn winter out of this location, this is what you have to do." And he agreed, right? So you can change it. So, but you must have some references in the beginning. You land on the location, doesn't work, change it. Talk to the art director, show him what you can do, and change it, right? Then we do a location recce, and we try to get the from morning to evening. If we are going to do 6 to 8 shots, every shot we must know where the sun is going to be. So use your Sun Scout or whatever app you use, get the sunlight in the right place. So when you land at that position, you know where the sun is going to be, and you already told your assistant what the light is going to be.
True.
Yeah. So light up like this: first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. All the 8 lights are set. We are going to land it this time. The sun is going to be there, and you want to light this up. Yeah. The references are there. Light is set. Everything is set, and then you land on the shoot at 5 in the morning and start. So you do your basic preset on the first shot. Everything the art director approves it. Yeah, I like the colors. I like the tone of the shadows. I like the tone of the highlights. I like the light. I like the contrast, and then you roll. Yeah. So some things go wrong in the middle. You can keep on adapting, but this is the basic process.
Hmm.
So we keep it quite simple. It's not. People think, yeah, I do use a lot of lights, but at times I play with the light which is already there. So a very basic light setup of 4 lights. I like to shoot. I like to use lights like kind of bounce lights. I don't use direct lights. I don't like soft boxes because they're too heavy on dry sand stands. So I try to take a thermocol polyboard sheets. Um I color them with whatever tint I require, and I bounce a light off it. So it's very light setup.
So you
So
put
I
the
took,
gel on top of the poly?
yeah, sometimes on top of the polyboard, sometimes on top of the light. Depends
Right.
on what, yeah. So if
Because
I
when you
put
put
it on the light,
polyboard,
then
becomes
it's
a little bit
bouncing off
more.
the white surface and it's adding more white to it. If both
Uh-huh.
are like colored, then it's like more punchy color.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much white you want to mix in that? How pastel you want the color to be?
Hmm.
So I took 2 polyboards which were blue, and I took 2 polyboards which were orange. And I did this. I wanted this playboy kind of a look. Uh, that actor who had curly hair and used to always smile, like Al Pacino, but a very happy kind of a guy. Old actor, I forgot his name. He was kind of a playboy, like George Clooney, but he was even more playboy, curly hair, and he just smiled, and he was that kind of a getting everything with his charm. So I wanted to portray this guy who was always playing golf, so he never meets his client in a in an office. He meets them at a club or he meets them at the golf club. Yeah,
Hmm.
he talks to them. He just smiles and he gets his way. He just smiles, smiles, smiles like George Clooney and gets his way around. Very light-hearted guy. No harsh lighting. Very soft. And so we shot this guy, and we started with this light in the morning, so we knew the sun is going to be behind us to the right hand side of the frame, behind the model. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 polyboards which are blue to accentuate the light, which is cloudy light, from behind him.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Behind you or behind the model?
behind the model. So the
Huh.
model is with blue skies around him like that, and
Okay.
there's sunlight somewhere here. Yeah,
Hmm.
very light morning sun, but most of the light is blue because early morning you have this blue cast, right?
Hmm.
So if I just shoot the model in that light, most probably it's just going to be like a little dark patch, like you see me right now against that whatever. So what I do is I get the. I'm just gonna share the screen.
So you
Okay.
basically get depth in the image by using gels, color contrast to give that depth.
Yeah, so I'm gonna enhance that blue light onto him, which is coming from the skylight,
Hmm.
early morning skylight, which is very blue. And I place 2 orange thermocols, like something very right angle to him. So it kind
Hmm.
of cues in the sunlight, very faint morning sunlight, which is falling onto it. So it's just a 4 light setup, 2 blue, 2 orange. Yeah.
Nice.
Understood. Sorry, Tarun, we had a question from Pulkit.
Yeah.
He's asking, during location visits and recce's, do you take rough shots or
Yeah,
do
I shoot
you...
on my iPhone and I
Nice.
use my Sun Scout app. I know where the sun is going to be whenever I'm landing on that location. I plan my location. So I'm going to land at this location at 6. I'm going to be there at 6. We have to be there at 4:30, and the model has to be ready and up and ready to shoot at 6 when the sun rises.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So also,
So
I mean, I learned to basically take while you're taking. This is for a beginner, more of a trick. When you're taking, you first select the frame that you want. Get your model, get somebody to go stand inside there and point in the direction of the point in the direction of east. So basically,
Okay.
they're pointing in front. So basically, if let's say the picture they're pointing in front, then you know the sun's going to be in front. If you want the light behind them, you come back in the evening and shoot that picture. So
Got
this
it.
is something that's I found that's easier to kind of figure out versus the SunScout app, because it depends on which part of the world you are, and some people can't read it as well. But this is a simple way to try and get the shot that you want, where somebody is standing. So you get somebody to go inside the picture and stand and just point towards east. Like that, you can figure out where exactly the sun's going to be.
Understood. Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
I kind of do a Sun Scout app and I take a screenshot of the Sun Scout app, so I see the sun like that. I know this is my frame, and in the frame I know the sun, the line of where it's going to be. So I do that. I just take the screenshot of the iPhone app. So for later reference, I know.
You light with the sun at the back, right?
Yeah, mostly, but I can stray from that rule depending on what I'm looking at. These pictures were done mostly with that in mind. I'll just show you. I hope there are more of these. So, So I followed the same setup in a different place.
Correct.
2 blue, 2 orange. 2 blue, 2 orange. 2 blue, 2 orange. You can see the orange light.
Correct.
And the blues at the back. Yeah. And I use the daylight to cover him up a little bit. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's very simple. Just most of the time, you should keep it as simple as possible on location.
That lighting trick is also, it's amazing because it when there's low contrast in a situation, it kind of helps you separate your model from the background, right?
Yeah. So the placing the blue at the back also kind of separates him from the background. Gives him a. So basically, the funda always should remember light from the back and fill from the front. Yeah. So if I feel that the contrast is too much, I just put one light right behind me, behind me. So just slight fill, it decreases the contrast a little bit. Depending if the art director will ask me, man, too much contrast, okay, I add a little bit on the front or whatever. So
you get more than one source of light. So it's usually like ambient, and then you have a fill, or if it's just flashes by themselves, you at least have more than one source for sure.
Yeah, mostly more than. See, there is what. So I was taught one thing, and I built everything around it. So I was taught that naked photo without even the glass is the sunlight. You put it into a octagon softbox and remove the cloth. That's the sun with the clouds around it, not in front of it. The clouds are around it. So the sun is coming sharp, but it's also bouncing off the
everything else
clouds. So it's soft and hard at the same time. Versus the sun in a blue sky with no clouds will be very hard.
Sharp.
Then if you put a cloth on it or you put a huge skimmer, then it's cloudy day. Everything else is a mix of it. Even if I'm sitting in a room, I'm not lit up with one light. Even the floor which is bouncing the light is a light. Even a white ball which is bouncing a light is a light. A black wall which is cutting the light is a light. It's a negative light.
Negative fill.
So when you look at a person and you say, wow, nice light. How can I get this light? See, floor, wall, how many sources are there, and create all those sources again, you'll get that light. Yeah. So everything is a mix of these three lights which I told you. So my entire light setup is just these three lights. And I mix and match. I make the ratios. I mix the ambient with the fill. I mix the ambient with the flash more, ambient less, ambient more, flash less. So I use all those black pictures, gambling and all that. Ambient is very less. The flashes is full. And then you saw this white party happening outside. Ambient is full. The flashes are just acting like full. Ratio, multiple flashes, ratio.
Yeah.
And I'm just playing with the ratio. Yeah.
And this is a funny thing. Like I still remember this. There was another question I asked Tarunn when I joined him. I'm like, what is the right way of doing it? And this explanation he gave me. There is no exact way to do anything. So that's something that it changes with each shoot. So every time you get out there, there is no fixed ratio to work with anything. So everything is pretty much dealt with by eye, and that's something that I think kind of also.
And now that I
So
see,
I'll show you a different. I'll show you a different version of the same thing.
okay,
Um, Same light used in a different ratio compared to the sunlight.
sorry,
That's me working
this
under Tarun.
this is an image that Ashik just sent me,
That's when I
and
used to work under Tarun, technically,
Yeah.
literally.
that's Ashik down below, and Tarun on
Okay.
him.
Can you see
Uh,
this, guys? So can
yeah.
you see my
Sorry,
screen?
yes,
So this is a different version of the same light.
interesting,
Yellows in the back and
Black
blues in the
blue
front.
card. Hmm.
very interesting.
So two yellow thermocols at the back. You can see the yellows falling onto a face from the back side,
Correct.
and this front is two blues from here. Yeah. So one yellow here, one yellow here as a fill, two blues in the front. So you see the pants and all a little bluish. The fill is a little bluish on his face,
Hmm.
but the main light is yellow or orange or whatever. So ambient is less, and you can see the city of Prague at the back. So I chose a location where you can see a little bit of the city. That they are in a city, but in a garden.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
So what I take away from this is Tarun's lighting is as dynamic as his imagery, because like there's no restrictions. Like there's I don't see like even any of the images where like sit down, pose for the camera, I'll set up one light. It's
yeah,
very emotion based, I feel.
yeah. So in the kind of negative fill, okay, we were shooting Royal Enfield, and then obviously I wanted it to be a sunny day. I would have preferred, but it didn't turn out to be a sunny day. And the day before the shoot, we predicted that it's not going to be a sunny day.
Wow.
So it was a cloudy day. You can see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if I shoot in this cloudy day, it's going to be a very low contrast, lit up from everywhere kind of a light.
True.
So we took 10 by 10, 12 by 12 skimmers. We covered them with black cloth. So we used black cloth skimmers and negative fill in the front
Wow.
to create contrast on a rainy day.
It looks like a nice
Hmm.
sunny day. If you don't see the clouds, it looks like a really nice bright 12 o'clock
Yes,
in the
so
afternoon.
we kind of lit up everything from the sides back, and then put black skimmers in the front, two three of them, to create this negative fill in the front, to create contrast, so the faces in the front don't light up with the clouds. So we realized that it's going to be too low contrast, so we
Right.
used black to introduce negative fill. So depending on the light, depending on that day, what's gonna be, then I take a call and I change. So yeah,
Amazing.
Uh, yeah. That's pretty cool, man. No, but I think it's also when you see Tarun's lighting on set, it looks a little intimidating when you look at the number of lights and stuff like that. But it's also, I think, each light has its specific purpose, so it's not really it's not that complex when you start to break it down light by light. So like when he talks about the two lights at the back, but if you look at a picture with four lights, you're going, oh my god, what are the ratios? What's he doing? But when you
Hmm.
start to understand
I'll show
each
you
light
one
has
more
its purpose.
example of the same ratio, different usage. Can you see it?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Correct.
Yellows from the back and blues from the front,
Interesting.
but a different ratio. Yeah. Um, then same thing. Yeah. Yellows from the back, blues from the front.
Correct.
Nice.
So you just play with the ratios and keep the same kind of blues at the front, yellows at the back, sometimes all white, and I kind of feather them away from the models. So what is falling on the models is only feather part of the light, right? Just not the
Yeah.
main light. Because usually when you see in, I like to emulate as natural light, but when you normally see a person in real life, the wall is white, but it's not like angling in a way and hitting the sun on him like directly, right? The
Correct.
wall is just wherever, and just the feather of that is falling onto him. Like
True.
it's never that the wall is like
Yeah.
hitting like
That's kind of what
hard,
turned me away
hard.
from using softboxes. Actually, I feel like softboxes are really unnatural forms of light. I mean,
Yeah, because they're
the
too
bounce.
direct.
Yeah, the because even when I use a softbox, I end up using the edge of it. So basically, like the softbox is literally putting the light in front of the model, and the model is just catching the edge of it. And that moved to indirect softboxes, which I liked even more. Then I started using a lot of bounce sources as well, because I was like, at that point, it started looking a little bit more natural than like
True.
softbox directly in your face, and it's really weird once you start using those techniques, and then you go back to a softbox directly on the model. Then you just can't. There's no connect between you and the light.
Yeah.
Then
True.
it kind of feels
So
really
if,
strange.
if the lights are fully at me, it will like just like
Yeah.
both sides to play. But if I feather them like away from me, only
Correct.
the side is falling, and it also avoids this light falling onto the background and lighting up my background,
Correct.
But I mean,
right?
again,
Because
people.
That's
they
good.
point it towards me. They're not pointing towards the background, and just a little bit is falling on the model. Otherwise, the background is so lit up that you can't see the model.
This is actually a technique that I used to see a lot in like the big Hollywood films, because they had these Fresnel heads, right? They couldn't really put a softbox on, so to soften the light, they used to use a lot of like put it on an ultra bounce or put it on a silver to change the light a little bit, and that kind of like that technique I feel like is what he uses a lot of, and like a lot of color gels as well to kind of bring that contrast, that color contrast inside the images.
So
It's
it's every
yeah,
time it's different. Like Royal Enfield is different. You just you have to
go
you
with
have
the
to
flow.
decide what the guy requires. I mean, should talk to the art director and then decide how the day looks like. Is it a rainy day? Is it a sunny day? Is it like a lot of greens? Is it like a lot of blacks? You have to take a call depending on that, and then you have to every time in the light in your head the light works differently. When you actually start doing it, it works differently. And
So many times.
depending, yeah, if you're doing spring summer, then you must also remember that the light is bouncing off a dry sand and everything and hitting the person. Summer is very light, so hard light and lighter
Right.
colors. So on a rainy day the mud becomes darker, so the light hitting from bottom is not so much. So
Right.
it's really different every
Yeah,
time.
nice.
So it's very subtle that people are reading the cues, but they know, oh, this looks like autumn winter. Oh, this looks like a beach. But they
Correct.
don't know what is making it look like a beach. But they kind of subconsciously they remember, oh, this is spring summer. It feels like spring summer. They remember what it feels like.
Correct.
So when your picture has that light, they might not say, wow, nice light, but they know it's spring summer. It's playing on the subconscious. And the advertising is very much playing on the subconscious. You should not directly sell them on their face, buy this, buy this. Very like working on a subconscious level. The guy is going and shopping, he doesn't even know why he's in the shop. Because somebody sold him that idea, you see. Like like this guy in the Leonardo, he had three characters. Like the guy who's born in wealth and is very classic, studied in Oxford. Now he doesn't know why he's going to the shop because he wants to be like that guy, right? So it's
Hmm.
playing on a subconscious. If I don't tell you the story, you don't know that guy is based on that kind of a. But subconsciously, you know. When I tell you, you go and look back at it, you can see it. But even before you could see it, subconsciously you could see that that guy is born in wealth, or he's something like what I aspire to. Oh, or I identify with a guy who's self-made man, and everything is loud about him. You might subconsciously identifying with him, aggressive, competitive, or you might be subconsciously identifying yourself with the playboy, whatever. But I'm just playing on the. So same way, I'm very subtly using the light. I'm very subtly using the styling cues. I'm very subtly using the props in the background. So when you go and see the props, I've used a playboyish open top car with a set of golf clubs in there and the caps and even the curl. I chose a model who had curly hair because he reminded me of that actor. Man, I can't remember his name. He had this curly hair. He was a very playboy, flamboyant Hollywood actor in the 70s. Man, I based my model on that. So on subconscious level, it's playing curly hair. So I'm choosing the model accordingly. So I chose that other guy because he looked very English. So the stylist, and he looked very English, very sober boy who was born in wealth and who was very soft and untouched and studied in Oxford. Just very plain, very very come from a wealth kind of a boy. And the stylist came and asked me, "Tarun, what should we do about the prop? I don't know what prop to give him." And I was like, "Tea, boy born in wealth, and he's English, and he's born to an industry's tea. So he's drinking tea, but that prop is so subtle. It's English. And the cup is like a little, old, and you can make out the lot of wood around him, the fireplace, a lot of old books, chandeliers, and it's subconsciously showing you, what you're aspiring to. So everything together makes that picture. It's just not one thing.
It's true.
It's a lot of planning from the casting. I'm casting accordingly. I'm casting an aggressive guy when you see that aggressive guy. He's a very aggressive bodybuilder, strong, competitive, that kind of a guy. And he's sitting on the table and posing. He's breaking the norms. I will never make an industrialist born in. A boy born into an industrialist and in wealth, make him sit on a table. Yeah, he's not going to sit on that old antique table, and because he's nothing to prove. You see, he's born in wealth.
Correct.
But aggressive, self-made guy who came from rags to riches, he's going to break barriers and he's going to sit on the conference table and take a picture, right? So he's sitting on a table.
Nice. So, I mean, do you spend a lot of time in casting right now, or because I know that sometimes that we don't get the option of choosing the models because it's already decided sometimes before we even
Yeah,
are
so,
confused with.
but I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but whenever it's possible, I try to ask for it, and yeah, that doesn't happen every time.
Yeah, I think things are changing slowly. We're losing a little
But
bit more
I mean,
control.
people come when they come. Sometimes I change if they've got 5 or 7 models on the set, and they've decided we're going to shoot this picture with this model. I come on the set, and if I don't see that person fitting, I change accordingly. I can use a different model, so swap them immediately and ask for permission from the client. Work on it.
Yeah.
So I do my best. So it is what I'm trying to say. It's very important to focus on everything. Like the picture is not just the light. Yeah, the picture is much more than at the subconscious level. There are a lot of things playing at you, and if you're an advertising photographer, then everything has to come together to to tell that story. So the story is what you're buying actually. It's the story. So I mean, difference between animals and humans, according to that famous guy author, I don't know what. It's that the humans buy into a story. I mean, that guy, that author said it in a very good way. You can't tell a chimpanzee that, I'm going to give you, you give me this banana and you'll go to heaven. You can't tell him a story. He's not going to buy into it. He's just going to say, what do you think I am, a human? Yeah? But human will buy into that story. So human buy into a story. And how do you tell your story? With just one picture. You tell it with the props, the light, the casting, styling, everything. Everything in that picture should tell the same story. The way he's sitting, is he sitting on the table? Is he sitting off the table? Is he just standing and sipping his tea looking outside the window? So even the pose is telling a story. Nothing over there should be a mistake. Yeah, everything should support your story. So it's like almost writing a novel. You're just writing it in one page, in one picture.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. But thanks, Tarun. I mean, it's been like a superb session.
Yes,
We
thank you
started
so much.
about cameras and we ended up with
Yeah,
philosophy of photography.
I personally enjoyed the lighting session a lot because I don't know. There are a lot of. I mean, it's such a personal thing. Like the way I light, the way Ashit lights, Tarun, etc., etc. Everyone has their own reasons and styles and stuff, and it's very fascinating to hear. How you get there, how you got there, because it's not something you open a textbook and you do it according to that. So
Yeah.
No questions. Was I so clear that there are no questions?
Well, everyone just kind of taken aback. They're like, "Oh, what to ask?" There's a question of how do you get into advertising photography?
Power of things that come to us. I started out wanting to be an art photographer. My dad said, "Your kids won't get to drink milk if you become an art photographer."
wow, wow.
And from there, I became a product photographer. And Suti Bandyopadhyay said, "Tarun, we need to shoot a Levi's campaign." Okay, we shoot a Levi's campaign. And from there, whatever. And then Juno Simon said, "I want people running and we shooting." So I became a lifestyle photographer. And from there, yeah. Yeah.
Trust the
You just
process.
keep taking pictures. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, awesome. Okay, I'm losing light over here. I think I'm going to go into complete darkness soon. So I think we should probably wrap up the session
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
But thanks so much, Tarun.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we can do one more session where we talk about the pro photo gear. We can spend enough time on that. But yeah,
No
but thank
other
you so much.
questions?
Let's see.
You have no questions?
Carla asked me who's your favorite model to work with.
Carl?
So I was like, I will
Yeah.
ask him.
She's really nice, right? She's really nice.
Yeah,
She's
she's a good model.
well, let me not say it. She's very nice. Okay, fine.
You're going to get all of us into trouble, Tarun.
No, sometimes she's so nice because she's not like I am right and you're wrong. Yes, so there's something like I don't know. It's not self doubt, but she's not like, yeah, this is what I want, this is what you're doing. No. So it's not self doubt, but something positive about the self doubt, which you talk to her and she responds. So
Yeah. But I
never
think that
like
self-doubt is also kind of good in people because if you're working with people who are so sure of themselves that they can't even imagine that they might have a little bit of wrong in what they do, you're working with pretty much a brick wall. But
yeah.
I think it's important for people to have a little bit of self-doubt in whatever they do. No, I mean
Again,
not.
the power of things that come to us. So photographer is asking, let's try it out. So the art director is asking, let's try it out. So the art director will suddenly ask for something in. I mean, I shared that Facebook story today where I set up this light for Malabar Gold shoot, and my assistants were working from 5 in the morning, and 8 o'clock the light was set up, and the art director landed at 8 o'clock, and he said, "Did you see the gates? Those bougainvilleas at the gates are so nice." And we were in the bungalow. We were like 100 meters away from that gate, and there were like some 500 kgs of equipment which we had set up, screamers, da 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 da, and we had to take everything. I decided. I asked my assistant Tarun, TJ, I know you've been writing this for. You've been doing what I asked you to do, and you spent 3 hours. Are you willing to change it? We are
Wow.
changing location. And he said yes, and we took everything and we went to the gates and we lit up again and we shot everything over there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Amazing.
in just one moment, he said, "Tarun, I saw that gate so nice," and off we go. Okay, ditch
Change
this.
direction.
Let's go there. So
Nice.
power of things that come to us. Grab it.
It's great to see like different philosophies in photography. I think it's also like it's interesting to understand everybody else's mind because we don't spend too much time on that. And like even like the whole journey of the camera, like it's not so much about the equipment, but for me, it's kind of to understand each person's thought on why they pick a certain camera, right? Like for me, when you tell me about a shoot, I look at a camera and say, the first question in my head is how much movement is there? Is it a running shot or is it a like a somewhat standing shot? Okay, if it's a running shot, is it indoor or outdoor? Are we going to use a flash or not? So based on that is what I pick my camera. So like let's say if before high speed sync, if I wanted to do an outdoor shot with somebody running really fast, I'd say okay, I'd have to shoot on like on a Hasselblad that has a leaf shutter, so that we could sync up with the flash. And
Correct.
but
Yeah, we
now
did. I have an example for that. So we did a shoot, and what is that beer? Do you remember a beer I shot? Yeah, I shot,
back.
yeah, Bex. Ah, man, I'm so bad with names. I can't even remember my favorite actor's name. Imagine. So we hired a Hasselblad, and this is the last one. So I'll show you why we hired a Hasselblad. Because sometimes in daylight, okay, now share screen.
But also, I think before with lights, I mean
Yeah,
the camera, you
see it.
had low. It's not showed up yet.
Can you?
No.
No, I'm sharing screen.
Yes.
It's come.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we shot on a Hasselblad 100 megapixel phase one back. Not Hasselblad. I don't. The new Mamiya, now new phase one camera which syncs
XF.
at very high speed.
XF.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because the water and daylight, at times, sometimes Canon has problem freezing these jumping things and all that. So phase one was good because the leaf shutter kind of freezes everything very well.
Yeah. I feel like all of that's going to change really soon because I mean at least the next change of technology that we're looking at is global shutters. So at the next change of cameras, I feel for mirrorless we're going to go to shutterless. So
Yeah,
basically, you need to take pictures at 1 in 4,000, 1 in 8,000, and sync it with the flash, and
yeah,
not be shooting on HSS. So like right now, like honestly, like sometimes I take three B1s and put it on one stand, hitting the same object so that I can go faster on my recycle speed.
yeah,
Versus because that's the only way to do it. Because like you sometimes you don't have the option of taking a Pro Photo a Pro 10 out location. So for me, I found like these
yeah,
things are much faster.
yeah.
But yeah,
No,
it's
the
more of a
only limitation there was because Canon kind of nowadays syncs at 1/200, but
sorry, say again.
Canon kind of syncs at 1/200,
One
and
by two.
yeah, but if you do the high speed sync, it's kind of multiple firing the flashes and the shutters traveling. It's not the when you see the image quality, it suffers at that because it's
Yeah, no, that's
firing
what
again,
I noticed as
and
well.
yeah. So the even 1/500 is quite a bit if you're shooting on a leaf shutter, and that phase one is much better. So these jumping shots and all that, if you want
But
to, if there's too much daylight and you want to cut it, then it's
but
good. Yeah,
that actually, if on the Fuji GFX, if you're using high speed sync, it actually looks a lot better. But I don't know if it's a medium format sensor that is actually doing that. But on a Fuji GFX, it's way better than on a like a Canon or a Sony also. The
okay.
the files it actually looks a lot better with high speed sync. But yeah. Okay, cool. I think
Yeah,
we should probably wrap this up.
cool
Tarun, thank you
guys.
so much.
Thank you,
And
John.
we'll see you
Thank
again
you
sometime
guys.
soon. We'll also
Yeah.
put Tarun's favorite actor's name in the description below once he remembers.
Who's that? Yeah, man. I
Surely
just
You message me and we'll put it in the
uh,
description because I think it's going to be a point of interest for everyone now.
I just got
Aram se, you message.
curly hair, playboy. Shit.
Okay. If you
He's,
know the
he,
answer, please.
he went to Dalai Lama, and he's a Buddhist.
Okay.
Now
Brad Pitt.
he's quite old. No.
No,
He's
no.
another one. He's a Buddhist. He wears these glasses now, and he's got curly hair. He's a
If you know
Buddhist,
the
yeah.
answer, comment below.
Yeah, I can. How
When you
can
say
this
Buddhist,
be?
I'm
What?
thinking of Brad Pitt doing what's that movie in Tibet?
Yeah. No, not Brad Pitt. He supports the Tibet cause, and he's very close to Dalai Lama.
Uh,
Richard, Richard, Richard. Hmm.
we have some comments coming in. Hopefully, nobody has any answers.
Is this-
Okay, cool. Okay,
Okay.
all right, guys.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you for watching,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. And once again, the power of things that come to us. Yeah.
Yes.
hopefully,
Look
work
for it.
comes after this.
See
right.
you.
Guys,
Thank you
bye-bye.
so much for having me. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.